And just like that, just how you drew it up, Mets win in an adventurous ninth inning, 5-2, and take another series win before our off day. Good game. Sevy pitched his ass off. Listen, give it up to Drew Smith and Diekman because that is not an easy way to come into a ball game after you're not expected to come into the ball game. But the Mets found a way to win. Our boy Hayden thought it was going to be Armageddon and the Mets were going to blow it. But they pulled it out. Another series victory, Chris. And hey, listen, they're still hot. 13 out of 19 in June. I'll take it every day of the week.
Yeah, 4 straight series wins. You take the series, right, that we talked about in the pregame from a team that you're directly competing against. I'm not sure how many things in half an inning can go wrong for this Mets organization. It seems like when you don't think there's any way to top something that we've experienced in the past as Mets fans, this team and this organization finds a way to top that. And this ninth inning was no exception. You got Edwin Diaz. I mean, they were showing the replay 10 times over of his hand. You all make the call. We'll talk about it in this stream, obviously. Make sure you all are hitting the chat with what you think, right? The situation was with Edwin Diaz, knowing that crew chief and the umpiring crew did not look like they were fooled whatsoever. They were even smirking from ear to ear, shaking their heads, saying, no, 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 no. But Edwin Diaz was pleading his case pretty heavily too, and he seemed very disappointed. So I don't know. There's probably two sides of that story. We'll see what the post-game interviews entail. Drew Smith, don't know. He was looking at his hand, don't know if there was a blister. Obviously, you warm up too quickly and you go out there and rear back for like 96 and something can go wrong in your arm. Anybody knows that, right? So just a crazy situation. But all in all, love Luis Severino and the energy that he displayed tonight.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, he had that, 13, 14 pitch at bat battle, right, with Cody Bellinger. And you know what? He was just rearing back. He was grunting. Anything and everything that he had into those pitches, and he prevailed with the strikeout. And when he got the third out in that inning, I mean, a literal like lion's roar coming out of his mouth. I mean, I love that energy. And Pete even went up to him, dapped him up. I mean, this team, regardless of what happened, Edwin Diaz is facing 10-game suspension, right? That is brutal for the stretch of games that the Mets are going to now embark on, right? With Houston, New York, the Nationals, Pirates coming up, etc. Nonetheless, this train keeps rolling and the Mets keep rolling. Really proud of this effort tonight. I really am.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, we talked about it on the pregame. Sevy needed to do his job today. He needed to be the ace of the staff. He needed to go 6 innings or more. He did exactly that. Not only did he go 6 innings, but he gave up no runs and the big number, no walks. Right? The strikeouts are pretty. And Chris, you talked about it in the pregame, right? Strikeouts are nice, but he just gotta, you got fielders out there. Let him catch the ball. Right? He didn't walk anybody, and that is always a good sign for Severino. When he's not walking people, he's hard to hit. And it was obvious and clear today that the Cubs had no shot against him. And yeah, that Bellinger at bat, 14 pitch at bat, I tell you, I was like, oh man, Bellinger's got him. It seemed like he was starting to figure him out a little bit and seeming to catch up on certain pitches. But Sevy just had another level. And you're right, that roar was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It was a battle. Can I just say something real quick? Listen, the strikeouts, like he had 10, the walks are great, minimizing those for sure. He had 3 or 4 strikeouts in his previous 2 starts combined, and he comes out with 10 tonight. And if you look at bat by at bat from Luis Severino, the stuff that he possessed, his ability to work each quadrant of the strikeout and each half of the strike zone, right, for those strikeouts, whether it's the upper half with 97, 98 miles per hour at the top of the zone, which he got Cody Bellinger with, or whether it's that changeup right below the zone. And the most important thing was how many times I saw competitive pitches, even if they're out of the strike zone, in his count. Multiple to Cody Bellinger. right? Multiple to a lot of Cubs hitters in that lineup, right? And I always praise the Cubs because I think on paper they have a pretty solid lineup and pitching staff through and through. And that's definitely a team that's going to be in the race to the end in terms of the wild card discussion. But that man, Luis Severino, had everything working today. And it was very apparent in this start versus his last one in Texas, not only with the stuff that he was possessing in the movement, but his ability to locate wherever and whenever he wanted to with those pitches. Any pitch, whether it's a fastball, changeup, whatever he had in his arsenal, that was very telling. And by the way, let's not forget, that was a guy that the Mets brought up from his start on Tuesday to win this series. Imagine if they bring him up and he lays an egg, right? We'd be talking about the post game a whole hell of a lot differently. He went out there, knew that his team needed him the most. He put them on his back, and he didn't get the 7 scoreless innings like you said in the pregame, Rob, but he got 6, and he kept his team right just enough away from striking distance to make something like the 9th inning a whole lot easier when you deal with those unknowns that this Mets team just had to deal with, right? In late in the ball game. So wow, I gotta just tip my cap to Sevy. That's a true captain right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, look, we were always on board with Severino. We always thought he was going to be good. We thought that last year was a mirage. If he stays healthy, he can be an ace of a staff, no doubt about it, with his stuff. But yeah, he showed that bulldog mentality. When he's on, he's unhittable. And listen, I know there's some talk about, the Mets might do some trades at the deadline, getting rid of a couple of pitchers that are on a 1-year deal to bring up Abudo and Scott and replace them with those guys, but you don't get rid of Severino. You just can't. If you do that, you're telling everything that you said about being competitive and trying to make the playoffs was complete bullshit. And even I'd have a problem with that. Even when I trust Stearns 100%, and I don't think Stearns is stupid. I don't think he's going to trade unless we end up being in sell mode because where we are in the standings. But other than that, Quintana, Manaya, it really doesn't matter. Anybody else except Severino, you can move. I don't care. If you need to if you really want Budo and Scott in there, I'm all on board with that. If you have to get rid of 2 of those pitchers, fine with me. But I want to give a shout out to a couple of players today because Mark Vientos, right? 1-4, a shot to send. I mean, that was a bullet. That was an amazing look for somebody who's been struggling, and to connect on that ball. Let's hope that he starts getting hot because of that. That was a huge insurance run, right? We're not talking about it because we won by 3 runs. But it was 4-0, and then when the Cubs hit that homer and it was 4-2, we're like, all right, here we go. We got to figure out the bullpen here. We thought we were gonna have Diaz in the 9th. How is he gonna work 7, 8, and 9 and all that? Nunez gave up the home run, but listen, pitchers are not perfect. He's been good for us. What are you gonna do there, right? He left the lollipop up there, and the guy hit it. So, but that insurance run was huge because if we were going into the 9th inning down by only 2 and the runner was on base, tie and run at the plate, we would have been a little bit more nervous, especially with Drew Smith and Diekman. So, look, they got it done. No complaints. We got the series win. It doesn't matter how you got the win. You got the win. And now you're 2 games under 500 once again. You got the off day tomorrow, and you got the Subway Series Tuesday and Wednesday, right? They did what we needed them to do. They needed to have an above 500 road trip. They ended up being 4-2, right? To be honest with you, they should have been 5-1. I think they should have swept the Rangers. I think they really had a chance in that 3rd game to do something really fun, but they didn't do that. And this Cubs series, look, 2 blowouts, and then this one was a somewhat close game, right? I guess you can call a 3-run lead a close game. Excuse me, a close game. So, look, give me series victories every day of the week. I'll take them, right? Yeah, we like to be greedy every now and then and get some sweeps, but you got a road trip 4-2. That's most people probably didn't expect that, right? But 13 out of 19, right? They're still one of the hottest teams in baseball. They're still riding the hot streak, right? I keep on saying this because it's a fact. We're still riding this hot streak from the late end of May into June. We're one of the hottest teams in baseball, and we're still hot, Chris. And people have to understand that. Mets fans need to start. Look, I know you're pessimistic. I know there's always waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I'm not saying to 100% believe in this team, but you got to feel good about this team because you could see it in their faces. You can see it in their emotion. They're starting to believe in themselves. And when that starts and they expect to go on the field and win every game, obviously impossible, but they expect that and they believe. When the fans start seeing they believe and they're performing, watch how fast the fans are going to start believing more and more each day. You get to 500, you get even closer to the wild card. You get in a wild card spot, that bandwagon is going to be filled up to capacity. Heads are going to be out the window on that bandwagon. I'm starting to feel really good about this team. Like, not just, believing. I'm feeling good because I always felt that this lineup should be doing this. I think they should be, right? I think in June they're scoring over 6 runs per ball game. I didn't expect the lineup to do that much damage, but if you're scoring 5 runs or more per game on average, you have a really good chance of winning ball games consistently. And right now, they're doing that during this hot streak, Chris.
Yeah. Before I lose this point, I need to ask this question because honestly, at first, I thought there was no way in hell that this would probably happen. And we talked about this. I'm not sure exactly if you know where I'm going with this drift, but Hector actually mentioned it when we were on the topic of Christian Scott, who's scheduled to be coming up Friday. They said after that off day on Thursday. Hector was mentioning something about his friend talking about Christian Scott heading to the bullpen when he comes up, right? Is this a situation where you could see Christian Scott come up in a bullpen role because right, that they are watching his innings. And now you have a 10-game suspension for your best pitcher out of the bullpen in Edwin Diaz. I'm not saying he's going to close ball games for you. All I'm saying is you're going to have to shift the line down. Danny Young probably gets the 7th. Reed Garrett probably gets the 8th. Daniel Nunez maybe even gets the 9th. I don't know how they're going to work that. I just hope that Adam Ottavino is not their answer in the 9th inning or even the 8th inning because that would be bad. This is a scenario. I was against it before. I didn't really see the vision with it before, but to work his way back up to this club, and you don't even have to wait for Friday to come around to do this, you can bring him back up into this bullpen for the time being that Edwin Diaz is gone. I'm not sure if anyone is on board with that. I'm not sure what sort of, I guess, comfortability Christian Scott would have in that sort of role. It's a very interesting talking point and thought for me, though. And if I'm David Stearns, my corresponding move once Edwin Diaz hits that suspension list, I got to think about that long and hard, right? Because who else are you selling me on in the bullpen that's coming up from the minor leagues? Unless you toss somebody that's in the rotation right now into the bullpen, like a Sean Manaea, but you don't need another lefty because you already have Diekman and Danny Young. So why would you throw in another lefty? Tyler McGill, maybe? I mean, are we confident that he's going to change his ways? No, exactly. So Christian Scott, I don't know, man. I don't think the time is now. Bryce Montes de Aka is not ready. Anybody else that you probably throw in there, probably not ready. I don't know, man. Give it some thought.
Well,
Buto, okay, Buto's a good one too. But I don't know. Either one of them, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a good point because they might have to do that. Even if they're reluctant to do that, they might have to, unless they have a couple of names that are having good seasons in AAA that win. Maybe even a journeyman that might fill in a spot for 10 days. That might pitch the 6th or the 7th or something like that as well, just to push people up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I would have to look at the roster, in AAA right now to see what might be available. Dayoka, I think, is probably about 2 weeks away from actually having an opportunity to be a part of the team. But you know what? I wouldn't be against it. Like, you're gonna save his innings. Like, apparently that's what they're doing now. You can save some innings. You might get really good performance from him for just one inning. But I don't know if they want to mess with him. You might hurt him. I don't know if they're gonna mess with the young guys. Like, they might do it with Budo, because I think they feel like Budo is kind of
That's
like that
probably
Swiss.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably likelier, I would say.
it's probably he's like a Swiss Army knife, right? I feel like he has the mentality for it. Like, I feel like he can go out one there and just go crazy and pitch that one inning. So we'll see. I mean, I have to look at the roster. I'm not gonna pull it up and waste time on the stream looking at it and looking stupid. But I would like to pull up the roster at some point and have ideas, because it is interesting, because listen, Diaz is going to be out for 10 days. He's going to appeal it, so he might be ready for maybe one of the Yankee games, but probably not going to get win the appeal. I mean, he might. Who knows? But I doubt it. I haven't seen nobody really win that appeal yet with the sticky stuff. So
I just think it's a very interesting conversation to have with
it
the
is.
bullpen, and we'll probably talk about it on the roundtable tomorrow, of course.
Yeah.
I think the likely guy is Buto, because he's versatile in that aspect, and you don't know what you're gonna get from Christian Scott in the bullpen, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that does some damage to him in terms of, like, I'm not saying confidence, but just like it's a different look and feel for him. But I just because I remember this specifically, that Hector brought it up on the roundtable like weeks back, right? And I was just like, I've never really thought about that or wanted that to come to fruition. But now, like, you can look at that and say, I wouldn't fault the Mets for doing that. And like, we understand that Edwin Diaz is not out for the season, right? But like, you need a placeholder. And the reason why this is such an important move, whether it's Buto or Scott, and the Mets bullpen really depends on their play, especially when Edwin Diaz is out. The Mets are in a time where they need to win ball games. They can't afford to go 4-6 over the next 10 just because they're missing Edwin Diaz. No, the train keeps rolling. We need to keep winning ball games. And who is the best guy to give you that chance to win those ball games by picking up where Edwin Diaz left off before the suspension? I don't know. Maybe it's Jose Buto. Christian Scott could be in the conversation as well. It's just very interesting to think about the makeup of this bullpen and all of the adversity that it has had to deal with so far here, and we're not even to the July season. And I know Eloise is saying John Jay, he's a lefty. This bullpen doesn't need another lefty. So, they're not going to carry 3 lefties in the bullpen unless they do, which they could, but like, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, committee in the comment section saying Diaz had an interview with with Mendoza, and he called it a teaching moment for Diaz. Mendoza said so. Again, maybe Mendoza ex Diaz and Diaz gave him an honest answer. Maybe it can be sometimes, like, I'm not trying to make excuses for Diaz or any pitcher right, but sometimes when you're in the bullpen, right, and you don't have it, you feel like the ball's really slick, especially in Chicago. You heard Ron Darling talk about it yesterday on the broadcast, right? In Chicago's where the north side is, with the wind and the moisture and just the way the baseball, the field is, like, the ball is very slick. It's hard to grip it. The wind, the atmosphere, the heat as well didn't help. And it started to get cooler as well. Maybe it's very slick, and maybe he just thought he can get away with it for a game. Maybe it's not like maybe he hasn't never used it, and he was like, you know what, I can't grip the ball, and maybe he was like, you know what, maybe I can get away with it for today, and he got caught. Right, take responsibility, and you know what, I like Mendoza saying it to the media. Right, some people might think it's throwing him under the bus. I don't think so. I don't think Mendoza has any like way of like throwing people under the bus. I don't think he's doing it on purpose to throw somebody under the bus. But I think he's right. It is a teaching moment, right? This is what I'm seeing from Mendoza. That comment tells me that Diaz probably didn't feel comfortable throwing the ball or didn't have a good grip, and it was slick. And Doughty can use something that was illegal and get away with it today. And listen, that's on him, right? And that's why Mendoza saying to teach him moment. And you know what? That's a leader. That is Mendoza saying, listen, you might not have your best stuff. You might not have the best grip on the ball, but you know what? You're talented. Figure it out. So I have no problem Mendoza doing that. And you know what? It gives the fans a little bit more belief in Mendoza because you know what? He's telling you how it is, right? Don't you want the truth from coaches and players, right? We bitch and moan how they lie to us all the time and they're not really saying what they really mean. Well, Mendoza's telling you. Diaz screwed up. He's going to pay the consequences. He needs to learn from it. Now, we could, for all we know, Diaz has been using it the whole time. But you know what? Was he using it the whole time when he was getting rocked and blowing games? Right? So, it can go both ways. But in my opinion, I'm okay with Mendoza saying that, right? If Diaz screwed up, he has the consequences. But you know what? It's the rule. What are we going to do? It's a judgment call from the umpires.
I still think that there's a very big gray area with this
Yep.
rule. Alan
That's
is
the
saying
problem.
here in the chat, and this actually like strikes like a thought here. So Alan is saying, so what happens when Diaz comes back and can't use the sticky stuff? Will he be as bad as bad again? I have the feeling he's been using it and getting away with it. I think that these players can still use it because if you look at Carlos Mendoza's post game, the umpires felt that it was too much. So
Yes.
these
They didn't say
umpires
illegal
know,
substance.
right? These umpires know, like, there's going to be stuff that's going to be used, and there's still other substances that can be used that are still sticky, et cetera, whatever. But the fact that he said it was too much, and you clearly saw Edwin Diaz's hand, like it looked like he had a lot of substance on it, like very blatantly when they were zooming in on his hand during the broadcast. So I don't know. I have a feeling that this is just a big gray area in terms of, okay, we know you're going to use something in some sort of capacity. If we feel it and we feel like it's a respectable amount, we won't question you on what it is and we'll let you pitch. If you're going to come in here and try to make us look like fools, like we don't know what we're doing out here and try to use a whole lot of it, then we're going to call you out. We're going to eject you. And that's exactly what it's going to be. So that's how I have a feeling how it played out and how it's been playing out for Edwin Diaz. But like I said, you don't know what these players are comfortable with versus what they're not. I still can't for the life of me figure out this rule in terms of how they're enforcing it. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to assume that there's a big gray area to it. But nonetheless, I don't know, man. That's all I can make of it. And I agree with you. I don't really care. Like, yes, managers are supposed to defend their players, right? If but like, what is he supposed to say? What is Mendoza supposed to
Oh
say?
no, I
Like,
don't think he did it. Like, come on, like, he's not
yeah,
supposed to.
like what?
Like,
Like,
come on.
is that gonna be like? Is anyone gonna buy that? Is it like that? Just screams of a manager not being genuine, right? And the whole point is, like you said, us as fans, like we like that genuinity. So I don't know, man. Like, I agree with you. I can't really fault Mendoza for basically saying this is a learning moment. This is a teaching moment. It is what it is. Some people are going to disagree with that. They're going to say, defend your player no matter what. And that's fine. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I'm just speaking for me personally. I don't have a problem with it because I know that if I went out there and I saw what I saw, right? Clearly, what we just talked about with Edwin Diaz, and it was pretty obvious, pretty blatant. Even the umpire smirking, like, is this guy serious right now? And for Mendoza to come out here and say, oh, these umpires, like, they got to get it right. This is this, and that. And I'm like, I'm going to say as a fan, I'm going to call BS on Mendoza, who I think has been doing a hell of a job this season so
Yeah.
far, right? Because that doesn't seem genuine to me. I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I want to pop up two comments here that are really good. Right, this is to talk about the gray area. Why do the Yankees get to wash their hands like Clark Schmidt? Right, 2 times in the same game. The first time they said to wash his hands. The second time, I'm sorry, the first time they were checking him, but they kept him in the ball game. The second time they caught him, they said to wash hands, and he was allowed to be in the game. They wasted time to let him go wash his hands and keep him in the ball game. That's why I don't like the rule, right? Just like a lot of other judgment calls in a lot of other sports, the problem is there's too much gray area, and you're giving the umpires way too much power to judge something that isn't really, written in stone. And it could be anything, right? What if it was rosin and that wax they're allowed to use, right? You could say, oh, he had too much on. So what is too much? You can only pat it 3 times. This is what they should do with the rule, right? Rosin in the bullpen and on the mound, right? With the wax and the rosin, right? You can only touch the rosin 1 time per at bat, or the wax 1 time per at bat, or when you first come onto the field to throw your warm ups, you can use it then, and then you after every at bat, right? I think they should come up with a rule like that. So you can't say, well, what if the pitcher uses it? The Cubs the pitcher uses it 4 times, and Diaz uses it 5 times, and it's going to be a lot more sticky when he grabs it a couple more times, right? Including sweat with the rosin. I know the sweat and rosin with Scherzer last year was crazy, but I don't know if everybody has felt that wax. I remember in college they started to use that a lot, and that was legal, right? If you on hot days or even cool days like the wind, you get a lot of moisture on your hand, and with the rosin, it's supposed to dry it up. Obviously, everybody knows that, right? But with the wax, it gives that little dry, sticky feeling to it, right? With the rosin and sweat, it can look like what Diaz's hand looked like. So again, I'm not making excuses, but the problem is, they didn't say it was an illegal substance. They said it was too much, like Chris said. So again, Diaz denied it on the post game, which I'm not shocked because he's going to appeal it. He might be able to deal with it a couple of days before they make it official, but we'll see, right? If he did use the sticky stuff, then it is what it is. Maybe he just used too much rosin and wax, and next time don't use too much. Like, I guess, I don't know, but what is too much, right? What now
Yeah.
pitchers are gonna wonder, right? Diaz is gonna wonder, is it too much? Is it that? Because right now, with our bullpen a little bit in shambles, we don't know about Drew Smith. Show me 40 on the IL. Diaz might get suspended. We can lose 3 pitches in one day. That's a lot to replace. So, and the other comment before we get move a little bit more. Where is it? Hold on. Oh, damn it. Where is it? There was one more. Oh,
It's not the
Mike,
Yankees too. Yeah, go ahead.
he said, you wonder if Tomas Nido tipped off counsel about the umps because he is on the Cubs now.
Good
That is a great point. That is very possible. And you know what? Yeah. I mean, Nido obviously knows what's going on, right? He knows very well. So, yeah, that could be possible. Or the umps usually check closers or guys that are coming in the 9th inning because they can't check them after the inning's over and after the game's over. If he strikes out the side in the 9th and saves the game, you can't say, oh, well, yeah, sticky stuff, replay the inning. You can't do that. So they do check the closes. If you've been to a lot of games, if you pay attention in the 9th inning, especially in closing situations, they always check the pitcher in the 9th inning where they can't check them after the inning's over because the game is over. So they do check the closers and the pitchers that come in the 9th when they don't have the opportunity to check them after the inning's over because the game is over. So that's not like something that Nido brought up and brought to counsel and they told the umps, or they could have told them prior to the game. Who knows? You never know. But
it's a great thought. It's a great thought because I didn't think of it. I'm sure a lot of people in the chat weren't thinking of it. So, Mike, great point. Absolutely. I think Jay also in the chat was following up right around the same time, thinking about it too. So it's possible. It's possible. But no, I mean, and shout out to Hayden too. I know he's in here commenting, part of the roundtable. Appreciate you, Hayden. Make sure you go check out his channel. It's not just the Yankees. Last year too, like Hayden just sent in the post to our chat. They made a Minnesota Twins pitcher go and wash his hands before they let him back out there in the inning. So it's like that's the other gray area of it too. Is like, how are you judging whether someone gets to do that versus doesn't? I mean, is it because the Mets? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. Is it based off of how much they came out with? Like, I don't know.
Chris, well, that's what I don't understand. Like, right, if it is too much and you're giving certain pitchers, an opportunity to wash their hands, how about this? You got him, tell him to wash his hands, right? If you want to check him after he comes back out to make sure it's good, then, and if it's not, you throw him out of the game, right? So I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even gray area. It's so much like off white. With the rule, like that's how, I know that sounds really ridiculous, but it's true, right? It's not even a gray area, right? This is not an NFL rule where you're going to give the referee a judgment call on what is a pass interference call or a holding call, right? it's very similar. We talk about that all the time in football season about the referees making judgment calls on those type of calls, right? It's not, like offsides, right? That's obvious in hockey and, football. So I don't know. I really don't know anymore, right? We got a series win here, and we have to talk about this nonsense because the rule is absolutely ridiculous, right? I'm not saying that, let them use spider tech or anything like that, even though, they talked about having grip of the ball. Maybe it is too much, but there has to be a clear-cut rule because if the player is not using an illegal substance or even too much, right? And it depends on the weather. It depends on the sweat of the player and if he uses rosin and wax. All that combination can make it very sticky. So, I don't know. I'm so frustrated right now because it was a big series win. It was a big win today. We talked about it. They bounced back again after a loss in a series, and they come out of this, smelling like roses in the win column, right? Now we have to worry about. Now we really have to talk about the Yankee series because we have no idea what our bullpen, right? We come off 4-2 on the road trip. Everybody's happy. We have a roundtable tomorrow at 9 p.m. We're going to be talking like crazy. And you know what the topic's going to be? This bullshit, right? Even if we don't want it to be, it's going to happen because it matters. Because we're going into a Yankee series not knowing who our closer is. Who knows if Drew Smith's hurt or not, or it's a blister, who can't probably pitch with the blister anyway. Shory Foley out. So we're going to be talking about who is – now you can't replace the roster spot for Diaz. So you might have to fill 2 bullpen spots.
You have to clear. Yeah, I got you. Understood.
So that's the issue.
I thought that you were able to, so I had the misconception of
Yeah,
that
you
rule.
can't.
But
But
regardless, though, they're gonna have to make a transaction anyways. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
They're gonna have to find a way to sort of mitigate that because maybe they play without a bench piece. Like maybe this is the time they send DJ Stewart down. I don't know. I don't think you can roll into this next stretch of 10 games with like just not replacing that role. Like I'm speechless right now. Like you can't do that. What do you think? Do you think there's a transaction to be had or no?
Oh, say it again. I'm sorry. I was looking at something. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you're looking in the comments. I said, do you think that there's a transaction to be had or no? Like, do you like? I personally see no way that the Mets go through these 10 games without finding some sort of mitigation piece in that bullpen. There's no way, and they're only rolling with a 5-man rotation anyway, so it's not like you can just like bump your 6th guy up.
Yeah. I'm maybe Stearns is looking for something. Maybe on a team like the White Sox or something like that, and say maybe we can get somebody that could possibly who is not a closer but has the potential to be a closer and bring them in here. For maybe cash considerations on a team that likes to shed payroll right now and something. They could do that, right? Like the Yankees just got JD Davis for cash considerations, right? And that's going to be they had injuries. They needed a third base / first baseman, so they did that. Maybe we can actually find something like that. And look, I don't know if I guess I trust Stearns. I think he is already on the phone, either looking at the minors, looking at his roster and in AAA, seeing what he can call up. And if he don't like anything, I'm assuming he would have to make a move. It's probably something he doesn't want to do right now, but you can't go through this 10-game stretch without Diaz if he does get suspended, which we all think he will, without somebody. Because look, Reed Garrett, I love him in this role, the 7th, 8th inning role, back and forth. And Nunez 7th, 8th. Nunez can be the closer, but we don't know, right? We don't know how his emotions are going to be and can he handle it because we don't know.
I will say though, regardless if it's a blister or not, we still don't know what's wrong with Drew Smith. I think it has to be an automatic IL. I don't think that you can like roll into the Yankee series with him being rostered still, but not being available to pitch.
Yeah, you can't lose another roster spot.
I don't know. I mean, you can't just like if you IL him for 10 days, like put him on the 10-day IL, whatever. I think you have to do it. Right? Because like you said, the blister's not going to heal in 2 days. Do we really trust Drew Smith? One,
No.
like first and foremost, and two, with a blister on his hand, assuming that it is a blister and not something else. I don't know. So, yeah, this is bad. It's bad. But you know what? We will talk about it on the roundtable. We'll have 24 hours between now and then to think about what we're going to say about this after more of the facts, if they do come out, end up coming out. And we'll have time to analyze and we'll talk about it. But like you said, this is a series win. Um, Really, at the end of the day, from here until we end this stream, I think we should just be talking about this game and enough with this Edwin Diaz crap because I
Yeah.
want to spend my Monday. I want to spend my Sunday night before going into Monday thinking about a Mets win. And then when I wake up tomorrow on the off day, I can realize there's no Mets baseball. Let me dissect what just happened with Edwin Diaz and why we're not going to have him from 10 games upcoming. So I don't know. Like I said, I just want to shout out, like you said, Mark Vientos. Harrison Bader, a couple doubles on the day as well, swinging a hot bat. Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor going back-to-back with the home runs to open up the scoring as well for that 3-0 lead early on the ball game. But, man, I mean, if there's one player that's going to continue backing us up and our narrative surrounding him, it's going to be Jeff McNeil. I mean, how many times – I mean, he put better swings on the ball today. He hit 2 balls on a rope, right? One to the first
Yeah.
baseman
He
right
hit
in
a
his
lot of
glove
balls.
and the other in the right field gap that Pete Crow Armstrong literally just ranged over. Very great range. I thought that ball was hitting the gap and getting
Yep.
down no matter what. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the results aren't showing themselves. Yes, I will say he put 2 better swings on baseballs today, right? That produced outs. But people are they're talking about the results, man. The results haven't showed. And they have showed for another player. So, like I said, I don't want to drown this out with McNeil talk. We talked about it in the pregame. You all know our feelings towards McNeil. You know my feelings towards McNeil. It is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, we got to win, Rob. That's all that matters.
Yep.
Fourth straight series win. It feels good. I will say, all things considered, I don't know why, right? I'm confident in this team moving forward without Edwin Diaz because he's been such a crucial role. He's played such a crucial role in this team since coming back from that IL. But I think they will find a way to get it done. Like you said, you trust in Stearns in terms of figuring out the roster moves, the roster construction. Given this, I think that Mendoza and these players will find a way to weather the storm until Edwin Diaz gets back. That's my initial optimism speaking. We could be like 4 games in. I can be like, all right, never mind. I got to backtrack here. But I would hope with the way they've been playing, like you said, 13 of the last 19, 4 straight series wins, that something like this translates over. Because like I said, what did we say a couple streams ago? All we need to do is just weather the storm until we get to July 1st. Because for me, I like my chances better against, I don't want to say it, a Nationals team, though, and a Pirates team as well. Like, I like my chances a little bit better in those games. Let's say if we don't have an Edwin Diaz, right? Which we won't. I believe up until the first game of that Pirates series, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm doing the math correctly. Anyways,
Yeah.
doesn't
So
matter.
remember, it's
Whatever.
games, not days. So they don't have no off days anyway. But yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So exactly. So yeah, I don't know. Keep the positivity as hard as it is. I hate saying that because I hate being in that crowd. Like I'm a very objective Mets speaker and a very objective Mets fan, but with the way that they're playing right now and the win that you just got today, I just hate to kill the mood with this whole Edwin Diaz discussion, which we've done plenty of already because we need to talk about it. It's a necessity. But they won a game today, man. They won 5-2. Let's give them some props.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they played a very well played game. The offense did what they needed to do, get their insurance run. They did what they needed to do early. They jumped on them early, got the pitcher out of the game early. Asadu, who's pitched really well this year, and they did their job. The Sevi did their job. The bullpen did their job every which way possible. 3 pitchers in a night basically, but they got it done, and kudos to them. Right? They got a series victory, and now they got the off day, and we'll talk about it a lot on the podcast tomorrow at 9 p.m. We'll see how that goes. But while you were talking, I pulled up the AAA roster because I don't see a lot that we can really, besides Scott and Budo, right? Grant Hartwig. Oh, he's injured. Never mind. Sorry. Let's see. Ty Attic. He's on the 40-man. I don't know if he's a starter. I'm assuming he's not. Sorry, I almost destroyed my phone. Oh, no, he sucks. All right, not him. I'm sorry. I just have to keep looking right now. Oh, we got Josh Walker. We all remember him. He has a
No,
1.69
thanks. I'm
ERA.
good. He's also a lefty, by the way. So
Yeah, I know, but he's pitched well this year. So he's pitched pretty well. What about the guy that Stearns picked up, a Cole Sulser? He's
oh,
been
I
really
kind of
good this
like
year.
him. I kind of
Yeah,
like him. Yeah,
he's
he did well in spring training too. I like him.
and he's pitched in 18 games, so he hasn't started. He's been in the bullpen. He has a 2 ERA, so he might be an option too. So uh, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out right now because that's basically it. Like unless it's Budo or Scott, which I'm probably leaning towards what they have to do. They might just have to do that. And I would just put Drew Smith on the IL just
Yeah,
to
me
save
too.
the roster spot because if you can't pitch him for 3-4 days because of
Yeah,
that blister, you lose 2 spots in your bullpen and 2 roster spots without using them. So and who knows with Marte, that spot as well. So it's like we got a lot of moves to make. So look, great series win, great victory today or tonight. And a lot of people were a little concerned about going into the game today, right? They didn't, right? Hayden was talking about it in the group chat. Didn't feel confident in this game tonight. He said it all day, actually. And
he said
I'm
it
not
all
even.
season. He
Yeah,
said it all
absolutely.
season.
But you know what? I understand where he was coming from after yesterday's loss. Like it felt like I mean, we were confident. We felt pretty good. Like I'm not saying I was feeling 100% confident, but I was feeling good because Severi was on the mound. Just think if Severino, you said this, Chris, if Severino wasn't on the mound today and they didn't push him back and pitched him during the Yankee series, we would have been like, oh boy. I mean, maybe who was supposed to pitch today? Peterson, right?
It was
That's the way.
Peterson. Yep, he
I
got
mean, he
pushed
might
back.
have pitched well. You don't know, right? Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't, right? But it was an important series. The Mets told you that by pushing Severino back. We all said it was an important series, biggest series of the year because of where we are in the standings with the Cubs. And now I believe we're a game and a half or a game out of a wild card spot going into Citi Field against the Yankees. And I want to say one thing, Chris. We're probably going to end this in a couple of minutes, but Mets fans, look, I understand, but don't let Yankee fans take over Citi Field. They did that shit in 2023, and it pissed me the fuck off. It pisses me off because, Met fans, you can talk all the shit you want, but if you don't show up when the team is playing well and Yankee fans take over Citi Field, if I'm a player, I'm giving you a big old middle finger. I'm sorry. Look, go to the game, right? The Mets are playing the best baseball of the year. You wanted them to show you that they can prove to win, right? Well, they're telling you, they're showing you right now. There's no reason why Met fans shouldn't be all over Citi Field on Tuesday and Wednesday. Show up for your team. They fought back when nobody believed them that they would. They're on a hot streak. They're playing their best baseball of the season. Go to Citi Field. Now, I know I might be a hypocrite, but I'm not. Believe me, if I was in New York, my ass would be to every one of those games. To be quite honest, when I was in New York, I went to a ton of games. I was always there, right? I don't even know if I slept most times. I used to go to Citi Field to work so many times, right? I do it all the time, right? I'm not saying you have to be me or go to 100 games, but you know what? This is a fun series. This is an event, right? If you don't want to go to a game in May against the Pirates, I don't expect you to. But go to a game, support your team that's winning right now. What else as a fan you're asking for? You're asking for winning. They're doing that for you. They're playing well. The Yankees, let's be honest, they're struggling. Right? I don't know. Did they win today? I have no idea. I
They
know they
lost
played
3-1.
Oh, good. So they lost another series. So they're not playing well. They got a couple of injuries. They do. You know what's funny? And I want to make this very clear. The Mets made a priority of this Cubs series by how they set up their rotation because it was important. You see what the Yankees are setting up their rotation to be? Cole and Hill and Heel. Tell me they're not thinking about that series. And that's a team that is one of the best teams in baseball record-wise. And they're concerned about setting up their rotation for a 2-game series against the Mets. When was the last time that happened? Usually the Mets set up their rotation for the Yankees, not the other way around. So just think of what both teams are thinking of right now. A struggling Yankees team that hasn't played well over about 2-week stretch and haven't been playing well against good teams. Now, you can consider the Mets a good team or not. That's okay, but they haven't played well. The Mets are coming in hot. I don't want the Yankees to cool us off. Now, they could. They're good enough. But just the mindset alone shows you with Stearns and Mendoza and the organization what they portray as important to their season was this series, not the Yankee series. Some might not like that. Some might be pissed off. And you know what? If the Mets lose two of the games, both games against the Yankees, you're going to have fans saying, well, look who pitched that game. Okay. But we have the tiebreaker now for the Cubs. And that's important because we're probably going to be fighting with them and other teams the rest of the season if we end up trying to go for a wild card. So, Chris, I'm sorry I went on that big rant, but I thought it's important. Met fans, go to Citi Field. They're winning. They're playing well. Don't let Yankee fans take over, right? Because they don't go to the Bronx, right? The ones that come to Citi Field don't go to the Bronx. I'm telling you that right now. They don't. They do not. They go to Citi Field because it's a cheaper ticket and they don't want to travel to the Bronx. Trust me on that. So show up. Support this team. They're playing well right now. Sorry, Chris. I apologize.
No worries. I agree with you. The whole sentiment. If I was up there as well, just like you, I'd be going to every single game, more or less, especially a Yankees game like this. But they are traveling to DC here soon again. I'll be at 3 of 4 of those games. And the only reason I'm not going to be there for July 4th is because I have a race to run. So I'll be doing that and I'll be preoccupied. And that's a very early game, or else I would have still made it if it was like an afternoon or an evening game. But nonetheless, like I said, support, show out. I'm still not going to even talk about this Yankees series right now. I'll talk about it on the roundtable tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be one of the topics along with this Edwin Diaz situation. We'll talk about it tomorrow, roundtable tomorrow, 9 p.m. Make sure y'all are watching. We definitely appreciate the support. Thank you so much for everyone being here. These are my final thoughts as well. So I'm not sure if we have anything else to say. We're going to wrap up here. These are my final thoughts. Just appreciate it. Catch us tomorrow. Great series win. We wanted the series win. And more or less, whether it was in the way that we wanted it to happen, right, with the Diaz inevitable suspension coming up, barring the appeal, Drew Smith being hurt, whatever, they got it done. And at this point, I'd rather them get it done whatever way possible that they can than not. Now, obviously, the suspension or the sticky stuff wasn't necessary, but it is what it is. People make mistakes. We don't know what really happened on behind the scenes. We still don't really know what's what because we never will. Things like this, the facts usually never really come out. Let's be honest. But with what we've seen Mendoza say about the situation, it's kind of a little bit different in terms of the tone, right? He never said anything about the substances, but like Edwin Diaz did, and he denied it, but he just said it's a learning lesson for Edwin Diaz. So listen, I'm assuming those conversations already happened behind closed doors. We're assuming that we're not going to have Edwin Diaz for the next 10 games. So be it. Find a way to win ball games with that next man up mentality. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't know what's going to have to happen transaction wise to fill in that spot. Not that you get the spot to fill in, but I'm just saying there has to be a corresponding move to more or less fill in that bullpen spot. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're expecting Adam Ottavino to just magically come out there and carry this team on his back in the absence of an Edwin Diaz, if that's the way the Mets are going to pivot, then I'm going to start to worry. But I agree with you, Rob. I'm going to trust in David Stearns not pivoting in that direction and actually having a backup plan. So, yep. Yeah, Daniel, I know. Yeah, we talked all about it. Catch the replay. We appreciate you all being here. We talked all about it. We talked Edwin Diaz. We talked the series win. We talked Sevy, Vientos, McNeil, everything. It's Sunday night. It's 11-11. Let's make a wish. We wish that the Mets find a way in these next 10 games to at least go 500 or maybe even a sexier record there above 500 in the next 10 games and weather the storm. Nonetheless, like I said, we appreciate you all. We'll see you tomorrow on the off day as always. Thank you all as well for 800 subs on the channel. Definitely appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. It's been a long journey. Love what I do here, talking Mets with everybody that comes onto my channel, especially Rob, because we do a multitude of shows. It's been awesome doing this since last year. I appreciate it. Still on the road to 1,000 on the channel, but Mets fans, whether you're on here for Mets, Rangers, Knicks, whatever, because I talk about them all, appreciate the support. It really does mean a lot. So I just needed to say that. I appreciate it. And let's go Mets. We'll find a way. Don't worry. We'll find a way.
Absolutely. So next step is 1K for this man right here. So make sure you help him get to that by sharing the stream, sharing the channel, and all that fun stuff on all your social media pages. And guys, listen, next man up. That's it. There's no excuses. Find a way to win the ball game. This Mets team has been doing that over the last 2.5 weeks. They got to continue it, right? Next man up mentality. Mets win 5-2, 37-39 is their record. Mets Roundtable tomorrow, 9 p.m. All of us will be there talking about this series, talking about the Subway Series, probably talking about a lot about Diaz, because why not, right? And what they're going to do with this roster with a couple of injuries, a couple of spots that they're going to have to fill, and we'll see how that goes. With that said, thank you for watching another Mets post-game show on both of our channels. Everybody have a great night. Let's go Mets, and we'll see you tomorrow night on the off day on the Roundtable. Good night, guys. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets